Hello. I had an email from someone this week asking me how I became a potter. I think they're basically a student thinking about what they want to do with their life and interested in pottery, obviously. And I think quite a few people who maybe read my blog about beginner pottery might be interested to know how I've done it. I mean, so many ways of doing it. I'm not suggesting this is the only way that people should go about becoming a potter. There's courses. There's a good one in England I've seen called Clay College, which is a very practical pottery course, which I think if I was younger and learning, I'd probably do something like that. But the way I did it was all basically off my own back, just remote learning, I guess, through the internet, and just spending a lot of time in the studio. So I'm just going to go through some of these questions that were posed to me in this email and try and answer them the best I can. So the first one is basically saying you sell your products, but where did you learn the process of selling your products? How did you become an entrepreneur, and when did you know during your learning process that your pottery skills were good enough to sell your products? So I started as a hobby. I bought my wife a pottery wheel about 10 years ago when we were both 30 years old, and after a little while I started having a go on it myself and I really enjoyed it. So I pretty much just got obsessed with pottery then and started watching a lot of YouTube videos, like Simon Leach and Ingleton Pottery and Matthew Kelly. I'll put all the links to all the things I mentioned in this video below if you want to check them out. But yeah, I just watched a lot of YouTube to start with, and I was really terrible at making pots to start with for a long time. But I just spent a lot of hours in the garage. I had like a little studio in the garage. I'm still in the garage now, but a different garage. And then I started reading a lot about glazes. I used a website called digitalfire.com to use some of their base glazes as the first glazes I made, and experimented with different oxides, and then gradually started developing my own recipes. Used some glaze software. I mean, glazy.org is probably the best, nicest to use software at the minute for formulating glazes. And I also spent quite a lot of time on Ceramic Arts Daily forum. I think that's probably the best forum for pottery questions. Most of the people are based in the USA who are on there, but it's probably the best forum for getting replies to your questions. I mean, obviously some people have different opinions on things, and you need to take some advice with a pinch of salt, and obviously do all the research. But that's a great resource for problem solving. It's been very helpful for me doing more advanced things like kiln building and those sorts of things. But yeah, so that didn't really answer the question about how did you learn the process of selling your products. Basically, after a little while I just thought, oh, I've got loads of pots, we don't really need all these mugs that I've made. So I tried putting them on Etsy.com, and amazingly some people bought some of the really early things that I made. I think it might have been a bit easier when I started on Etsy. Maybe there weren't as many people doing it, but I sold a few things on there, and yeah, gradually just kept on making different things, and then I set up my own website using Shopify, which is probably, in my opinion, one of the better web e-commerce website providers. It's maybe not worth setting up your own website when you're starting out, because it costs about £30 a month, I think, for hosting on that. So you need to be selling a few things really to make it worthwhile. But yeah, starting on Etsy would be a good idea. I've just done another video about like giving some tips about selling on there, which might be useful. I think it was the last video I posted. How did I know during my learning process that your pottery skills were good enough to sell products? Well, yeah, I never really knew that people would buy them. I think just you've got to take a leap of faith sometimes and just put them out there and see. I mean, if you make a variety of designs, some things might sell better than others. I mean, the thing that enabled me to go full time was when I started making personalised pottery. I only really started the personalised stuff making something for a friend once, and then other people saw it and it took off from there. So I think it's just worth trying lots of different stuff really, and seeing what works with your customers. Sometimes things that I think are great don't sell well, and vice versa. So I think to be a potter you need to have lots of skills other than actually making the work. You need some practical skills, probably like a bit of woodworking things to make like wearboards and things like that, if you're selling on the internet, you need to know about writing product listings and doing photography and search engine optimizations. Basically, just writing good descriptions, and you need to know a bit of accountancy skills, probably working out what's going to be profitable, and the dispatching of products is quite a time-consuming process. I use some software called SendStores, which brings my Etsy and my own website, all my orders together, and it links with my Royal Mail account, so that makes dispatch a lot easier. Get all my labels printed out, and even though packing still takes ages, but yeah. So another question was, it put a lot of time and energy into becoming a potter. It cost a lot of money to buy all the materials, or did you start using a normal kitchen oven? How did you get started? So I mean, if you're using standard clay, like stoneware or earthenware, it would need to be fired in a kiln, in a proper kiln. Most clays only vitrify at around like 1,000 to 1,300 degrees C. So you can't use a kitchen oven for firing proper pottery. You might be able to do like the FIMO stuff or something in there, but there's no clay that's going to be able to be fired in a kitchen oven that you could use, as food grade pottery that you can put in a dishwasher or the microwave and things like that. But buying equipment, so I mentioned I bought my wife the wheel. So the biggest investments really would be a wheel and a kiln. So I bought my first kiln off eBay. It was quite old when I bought it, and it wasn't terribly expensive. But if you're just looking to get started, I would recommend just doing a few days or evenings at an evening class to start with, and then I'd definitely say that having a wheel to practice on would be more beneficial than getting a kiln if you can only afford one of the two. I mean, if you had a wheel, you could make a load of pots and then maybe find a local potter or like a painter pot studio and ask them if you could put your pots in their kiln. Otherwise, you could just make lots of pots and not fire them and just practice getting your forms the way you want them. But other than the wheel and a kiln, the other materials are not really that expensive, like clay. It's like £5 for 12 kilograms of clay or something, and glazes are not very expensive. There's not a lot of other equipment you need, like there's a few brushes and a few tools and stuff, but nothing major really apart from your wheel and your kiln. But it all adds up probably. So I've just sort of accumulated everything through the years from when I started as a hobby. So my basic timeline, I started in 2012, first goes on the wheel, spent probably 2 years just messing about. I think 2014 I looked on Etsy, was the first time I sold anything, and then I think I spent about 4 to 6 years being just a hobby potter, selling a few things on the side of my regular job, working 5 days a week. And we also had 2 children in that time. We've had another one recently. So being busy with family life and my regular job. And then I think about 3 years ago I was getting enough orders to cut down my day job to 4 days a week, and I started doing pottery 1 day a week. But I was also working a lot of evenings, like every evening I could, when I wasn't looking after the kids or something, I would be out here working away. So I was probably doing more like 2 and a bit days a week actual work. And then at the start of the COVID pandemic, I was going to get furloughed from my other job, so I decided to go full-time potter. So that was about 18 months ago now, and yeah, I've been happy and busy since then. And just to coincide with going full-time, I built a new kiln, which was quite a job, because it's about 500 bricks and about 2 tons of bricks I think it took. It's about 9 foot tall chimney, things like that. So if you're going to go full time, you don't need to build your own kiln, but when you're starting out, I would recommend having a small kiln, because if you're only doing it part time in the evenings or whenever, you want to be able to fire your kiln quite frequently so that it stays interesting. You can try out different glazes, things like that. If you have a massive kiln and you have to wait ages to fill it up, it's not great really. Or you have to fire a kiln without much stuff in it, which isn't great as well. So if you're not spending many hours a week making pots, I'd recommend a small kiln. But yeah, once you go full time, you definitely need more kiln space. Because I was struggling with a little kiln for a while, having to fire it every day pretty much, and yeah, it was not very good really. So yeah, you need your kiln size to match how much work you're able to produce. So I don't know if any of that was very helpful really, but I suppose like being a potter is one of those things that before I was doing it I thought was like just something that other people do. You know, like being an artist or an astronaut or something. Often the type of things that, you know, parents might think they're a bad idea, like you never earn any money from it and you're just gonna waste your life struggling and things. But I've been, you know, touch wood, since I've gone full time. I've been comfortable, not rich obviously. Well, I'm not rich, but yeah, you can earn a decent living from being a potter. You just got to work really hard. I mean, all those hours I spent, you know, learning, researching as a hobby without being paid has, you know, made it possible for me to earn a living from it now really. So just got to put the hours in really and spend a lot of time on the wheel, failing. Well, I did anyway. It can be quite disheartening if it's not going well, and I struggled for months and years probably to centre clay properly. But you just got to keep trying if you want to do it, and hopefully one day you'll get there. And I'm happy. I wouldn't want to be doing anything else now. So if you want to do it, just go for it. But I think it's definitely. I'm quite a risk averse person. I wouldn't have just decided, oh, one day I want to be a potter and just started doing it. I knew when I decided to go full time that it was definitely going to be financially viable from the experience I had, you know, doing it part time and as a hobby. So, alright, so leave comments below if you want to follow up anything, and I'll try and answer more questions if you need. Good luck, bye.